So now it's time to finally implement this design in the database. Let's open the MySQL workbench. It's basically a GUI for using MySQL. Let's click over here. And I already experimented a bit, so let me just delete this schema. Okay, now let's create a new schema. This icon over here. Okay, let's name it ZooDB. Okay, apply. So here's the SQL statement for creating the schema if you want to directly type the SQL statement. And that's it. So let's create our first table staff. The primary key is staff ID with name, age, salary, and gender as fields. Go to the workbench, right click on table, create table. The table name is staff. It doesn't matter whether it's lowercase or uppercase, most databases are case insensitive. Now you can just turn these things off so that we get more space for entering the data. See, the minute I clicked over here, MySQL Studio properly guessed that this should be the proper name for the primary key of table name staff. So let's make it primary key by checking this box. Okay, this box gets checked automatically. This stands for not null. Now another attribute is name, which should be varchar, and it 45 is okay. Let's create another field, age. Let's make it int. Let's create another field, gender. Let it be varchar 2, and another field is salary. Salary, let's make it int. We do not want to enter the primary key ourselves. We want it to auto increment. So let's check this field. Alright, now let's apply. And here is the SQL statement if you want to type it yourself. Let's apply it. Finish. Let's close this off. We have a staff table over here. Right now there is no data in it. So let's create our next table, that is cage. Cage ID is the primary key, animal ID is the foreign key, cage number and location. Let's create a new table. Name is cage. Cage ID is the primary key. Make it primary key. Make it auto increment. Cage number, and cage number is, let's keep it varchar because they wanted to name the cage numbers like A5, B3 or something like that. Location also let it be varchar, and an animal ID, since it's a foreign key which relates to the primary key of animal table, it has to be an int. That's it. Now just because we have created a column named animal ID doesn't mean it gets related to the animal table. All the foreign key relationships will be accounted for later on. Let's save this table. Let's create our next table, animal with animal ID as primary key, total number, type, category ID as a foreign key. Go to the workbench, create a new table named animal. Animal ID is the primary key, make it primary key, make it auto increment, make it type, to total number, type is varchar, total number is an int, and then last one is category ID, which is a foreign key in category table. Let's make this an int. Let's apply. That's it. Move on to our next table, that is food item with food item ID as primary key, name, quantity, supply ID. Go to the workbench, close this, new table, food item, make this as primary key, make that auto increment. Other fields, name, quantity, supply ID, name. Now what should quantity be? Let it be watcher or let it be int. Let it be watcher and supply ID. All the IDs are going to be int because all the foreign keys are basically going to be int because our primary keys are going to be int and they are going to relate to the primary keys. Save it. Finish. Let's move on to a new table, that is animal food item, which is the associating table between animal and food item. The primary key is a compound primary key comprising of animal ID and food item ID. Let's go to the workbench. Name of the table is animal food item ID. Item. Now the columns are animal ID and food item ID. So basically both are primary keys, so we have to click this also, but we won't be auto incrementing any of them because they are going to get values from the related tables, so no auto incrementing for any of them. That's it. Let's create the next table, that is supplier, with supply ID as a primary key. Supply ID is primary key. Supplier name, contact number, address. And let's make this auto increment. Apply. Save the table. The next table is emergency. Let's create it. Emergency ID is the primary key. Let's auto increment it. Type case and progress so far. Yes. So let's make it a bit bigger. Maybe 145 of both of them. Save the table. Here is the SQL statement. Let's create the category table now. Category int this primary key, make it auto increment. The next field is category type. Mammal, fish, something will be stored over here. Save the table.